No, I hear you. And it probably begs. We haven't talked about it. Just the timing of our last show didn't really coincide with a good chat about this. But God, here we are 2 or 3 weeks away from the window ending.
Yeah.
And we are in desperate need of players. And Twitter was blowing up all last week about so many Spurs fans dejected about that we are going into United after playing ridiculous tournaments in Germany without a full squad, without the needs that we have, and it spouted off a ton of great discussion, bagging on Levy, being cheap, waiting to sell before buying. We talked about it maybe a little bit in one show that it's maybe not that easy, but everybody seems to, like all these, respected guys that we chit-chat with, everybody seems to think that we're still going to sell Addy, that we're going to get these players in, but man, do we leave it late?
And I thought we were really getting away from that this year for as early as we signed Vimmer and for as early as we went out and made the purchase for Alderweireld, to be quite honest.
And Trippier.
We really started to do our business. I was like, we're going to get this thing done, and we're going to be able to sit back, like someone who's got all their Christmas shopping done 2 weeks early and go to the mall and just kind of watch everybody else flounder around looking for that. Is Arsenal ever going to get the world-class striker that they want? That's almost like a running joke now in the league.
Yeah.
And here we are, once again. I guarantee you, West Brom, their upper management right now and their chairman is hoping that Berahino pops in 2 goals tomorrow against City, because his price will go through the roof. I don't think they have any qualms about selling him. They have no ambitions for being other than mid-table. They are not relegation fodder by any means, because they are good enough to not have to worry about that. And I think they're out to make some coin on that kid. And I think they're just praying over the next week or two that he just goes out there and just bangs in, 2 or 3 or 4 goals and just makes his stock go through the roof. Because I think he's going to be one of the prime people that's out there to be sold.
I got to tell you, this whole the way the business gets done, we did touch on it, I think, in the last. It's vexing to me. I cannot figure it out really for the life of me. I mean, it's just not a linear process. It's not something that's terribly predictable. I mean, to your point about Berahino, it shows we're not the only ones that haven't got our business done.
Right.
I mean, United is got to go out. I mean, they're going to sell David De Gea, and they're going to try and bring in. I think they've been trying to bring in Pepe from Barcelona.
Right.
So it's not just us. I just wonder whether we have to be a part of the late group. And I mean, a lot of guys, I don't want to out people, but I mean knowledgeable guys that we know and like, like Adam Hotspur and folks like that. Business just invariably, some portion of it, some more meaningful than others, just gets done late at the window. It's when all the chess pieces move and everybody shows their leverage, and it's nuts, though.
Yeah, and we have the money. We've sold enough players, and there's still players to sell. I mean,
we have the money anyway, Kenny, and that's what a lot of people were all pissed off about this week. Is like, why are we waiting? Why do we have to sell before we buy? And I don't think it's really that. I mean, but you're right. We have sold players. We should have money, but we shouldn't have to wait anyway.
But it's Joe Lewis, and maybe Levy to an extent, but I think it's more Lewis than anything. I think if Levy was given open purse strings, he would sell the shit out of players and buy some really nice players for us to be able to watch it every week in and week out. But Lewis is not. He's made it abundantly clear he is not opening up this checkbook.
Yeah,
and we've already talked that this whole new stadium, new Northumberland development, new NFL deal is all part of putting a package together to sell the club for the $1 billion that he wants. That I guess he thinks he's going to take to heaven with him and play slots or something. I have no idea what Joe Lewis is thinking in asking for such a ridiculous amount of money for a club that realistically is only worth about $350 million.
Well, look, we don't know that, but that's very plausible. Could very well be very well be true. But you nailed it when you said Joe's not going to put any money in. I mean, that's been the genius of his ownership of Spurs has been unbelievable. He, relatively speaking to what this club is worth, and I think we mentioned this sometime last year, he hasn't put in relatively speaking, a whole lot of money. I think probably his net equity is probably low hundred millions, and the club's going to be worth a billion. And but Daniel owns like 30% of it.
Yeah.
So I've always kind of thought Daniel's not going to be away from the club. But anyway, but it's a fascinating discussion about how we get our business done and why we wait so late. And it's just not as easy as saying we're cheap bastards and we don't want to spend and we don't want to do things early. But maybe there are some things that we could do better as a club. From in terms of our executive management to maybe speed things up.
Well, and let's go ahead and jump into the transfer talk stuff then, because we've already been talking about it for 5 minutes basically. we know we need a center mid or a striker or a poacher or somebody along that lines to play up front, either with Harry or to be able to spell him. For as much as everybody likes Soldado, I don't think even anybody wants to see him really play in Europa right now, let alone the domestic cups. And it's sad to say. We know that Valencia, I think, is in for him. Possibly Sevilla.
Villarreal, I think.
Villarreal as well. There's a couple of Spanish clubs that I've heard he's been linked with, and I think one Italian club I think he's been linked with. Addy, is he going to go to Villa? Is he not? He doesn't even have a squad number right now, unless they've, I guess he's training with the reserves, as well as Lennon. He could be on the outs. I really thought maybe something would happen with Everton because I thought they were very impressed with Aaron last year. What he did and he was quite impactful for them up that right side, and he has absolutely no place in this squad with Pochettino as manager. He really doesn't. And I know a couple people, Nils Thorsen being one of them, big Lennon fan. He's not going to play anymore for Tottenham Hotspur. He's not.
Yeah, I think Poch has said as much openly. Right. I mean, I don't think are they eventually going to get a squad number? I think he said no, they're not part of my plans.
Yeah.
But ironically, Soldado is.
So you've got 3 players that we know need to be offloaded because they have no future with the club. Soldado, Adebayor, and Lennon, and we haven't heard anything on Lennon. I mean, it's been dead.
Yeah.
But the other 2, there's been plenty of noise. Even I think when we were in Denver, we were hearing that Adebayor was in Birmingham having a medical and discussing terms, and nothing happened. I mean, Vlad was also in Napoli at the time, and that went through. But we didn't hear anything further on Addy. And I think Soldado at that point was in Spain trying to hash it out. And these things have hit snags for whatever reason, whether it's the asking price of selling, whether it's the wages of Adebayor. Much to everybody's chagrin, I still have a soft spot for Bobby. I was hoping this would be the year that he would pull it out. Doesn't look like he's going to get that chance, but if it is to fall through, at least we've got him, and I think we would all agree we would like to try something else.
Yeah.
But I just want to see the back of Adebayor. I think he's done his duty for us. It was a couple of seasons ago, and he needs to move on. And it's a saga that unfortunately has come back to bite us in the ass because when we took him on, City was subsidizing his wages,
right?
And then when that was over and we owned it, his wages, they were still $100,000 a week, right?
Yep.
Yeah, just over. Yeah.
And who wants to pay that for someone who's 30? Is he 30, 31?
Yeah, I think
he's
so.
30 this year. 30 this year. Yeah, I mean, so it's and Adebayor. Look, the fans obviously they went through the booing thing with him. Every time he'd come on, they would boo. I mean, middle of the match, and he would boo.
Ridiculous.
So listen, it might not be so much that Adebayor is a terrible player, and it might not be so much that Adebayor has a bad attitude, but when you combine everything, whether it's his lack of effort at times, especially in this kind of a system where you have to be running your socks off, whether it's he does maybe have a little bit of a locker room issue with some of the other players or with Pochettino, combined with fans booing this guy, it's a toxic mix. You just can't have that player in the squad anymore. Listen, football players, for as much as we love to look up to them, and we have idols. Dave Mackay is my idol when it comes to this sport. They are very fragile, it seems like, in a lot of sense, from their psyche. And so when they hear booing at home, and it doesn't matter if it's directed at one player or not, all they know is that they hear booing at home. And it brings the whole team down. That is one giant cohesive unit out there, and if one person or two people are being slated by the crowd, it's going to bring everybody else down. So I just think he's got to go.
Yeah, he's gone. He's gone.
I think maybe some of it has to do with the wages. Last I heard, it was like the asking price was going to be extremely low, but Villa were going to assume all of his wages.
Yeah, I think it kind of comes down. There's complications with doing a deal, and none of us will ever really know. But it's very fitting because he's a very complicated guy. He's had a lot of shit happen to him. He's had a lot of shit happen to him because he's allowed it to happen. You've seen some terrible things. He's got family. The point, if you're owning a team or you're managing a team, you don't need that shit. No. And you just and you know what, it's a sunk cost, and we're going to move on. And I guess the club is either willing to say, look, we're just willing to pay him out, kind of like what we did. Yeah. Look, they did it with Akatu. They did, right? Yeah. We just paid him. And I think they're willing to just say, the hell with it, we'll do it here. Soldado is kind of interesting because he's got a house evidently in Villarreal, and I don't think he would mind going there at all, but something's not working there for some reason. But the rumors is yours, sort of some combination of either Sven Bender for that CDM spot, Berahino, and then I always get this backwards. It is Timo Werner, I believe, from Stuttgart, I think. So those are the three that I seem to be hearing a lot. There was that discussion about Yarmolenko. He's unbelievable.
Yeah, there was one striker from PSG as well, right? Or no, from Lyon.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Njai or something?
Njai, yeah. And I don't really know much about him. I don't follow the league.
He's young.
Yeah, he is. And he's very skillful, evidently, very fast.
I just can't see him coming and being a first-team player straight off the bat at that age.
Well, you know what, though? Hang on. We don't have. What do we have there? We got nothing. I mean, we don't really. It wouldn't take a whole bunch to replace one of our wingers, right? I mean, I know Lamela is.
Take away.
Well, that's my point, right? Take away Lamela's price tag and his expectations. If you just looked at him for face value, you'd be willing to try a lot. And that's why I don't quite understand about. Well, I shouldn't say that. Dyer's or Ali's going to need a little bit of time. I think he's going to be starting a lot. Look, we did it with Nabil when he was 19 or 20.
It's just a matter of giving him a run of games.
Yeah.
To see if he can
I thought about this the other day. Didn't Nabil start a North London derby at 19? Didn't Sherwood blood him?
That was his first match, too, wasn't it? His first starting match?
Might have been his first start. It was certainly his first North London derby. So it's been done, and Ali looks comfortable. Anyway, I didn't get off task there. So Njai or whoever he is, if he's really great, why not?
Yeah.
Well, and then Austin is still doing the rounds.
Sure.
Oh, right. Yeah. Yeah, a lot of people think if we don't get all the other stuff done, that go back to good old Charlie Austin. He'll still be there because he's dying to be, out of QPR.
I noticed the Daily Mirror yesterday referred to him as Texas. I'm like, what?
Really?
Who is your proofreader? You're a British paper and you say Texas instead of Austin.
Right. Okay. So anyway, I guess the window ends when?
September 1st.
September 1.
So about 3 weeks.
So you think we'll get... okay, yes or no? Do you think we'll get a CDM and at least a forward? Kenny, you first.
I think we'll get a forward before we get a CDM because
No, that's not what I asked. Before the window ends, will we get both?
No.
Okay. Chairs?
I don't think we're going to get the CDM. I think we'll just get the striker and that'll be it.
I say we will.
But you didn't yell at him. You just yelled at me because I did the same exact thing he just did.
No, but he said yes first, though, right?
No, he said no.
You said no, Simon? What'd you say?
We're not going to get both. I don't think we will.
I apologize.
I think we got enough options there. Shut up.
Yeah,
we got enough options there to be doing what we need to do with the CDM. It's not ideal, and I think we know that. This Eric Dyer thing, we want instant gratification, and we didn't get it. And so we think it's not going to work. And, should we be experimenting at this stage of the season, albeit one game old? But, we experimented with that we saw it. I don't want to get it onto the All-Star game, but I saw it during the open training. I watched it with my own eyes as they were doing setups. It's like, holy crap, they put Dyer in midfield.
Yeah. And which is where he played at Sporting for a vast majority of his career there.
Yeah, I heard that today on the commentary. I honestly didn't know that.
But let's, we didn't really analyze his performance in the game much yesterday. His tackling, his defensive duties were okay, but his distribution, his passing was poor.
Well, and that's why I think we go back to Sam's point, though. Why not? Look, we got Stoke coming up. Why not play Bentaleb in that holding role and let Ali, center up next to him in that defensive midfield, but let him be the attacking option back there. He's so good with his feet.
He is.
If he can get his passes weighted properly, which he didn't have a problem with that playing for the Dons, it could be magical.
And you know what? And you know what made me think about Bentaleb, him being that defensive part of the pivot was because I remember how well he played as a left back against Everton. He looked really good just as a pure defender. So I kind of felt like that may be where his talents are best suited. But I guess we have Mason, and
well, Mason's just returned